This is Aaron Walden, and I am here with John Luca, and this is the second part of our interview series with him, and he just completed his 28 and a half day water fast. So he's going to share a little bit of his journey and tell you how things went. So.
All right. Well, I made it. It was very interesting to say the least. We talked about in the last video how leading up to the fast I had completely eliminated all sugars or anything that converted to sugars, certainly any processed foods. So it made the transition into a water fast a whole lot easier for me. I can tell you that the first 72 hours was a little bit difficult, really not that bad for me, but I felt a little bit of head pressure, especially towards the third day. And then on the fourth day, I woke up and I was off to the races, and I was never hungry once during my 28 and a half day journey. I did the things during the fast. First of all, I fasted while I was at home with my family, which can be a little bit difficult because everybody is worried about you, and it goes against the norm, not eating at all, which I didn't eat at all. All I did was ingest water with Himalayan sea salt and some sea minerals. That's what I had most of the day, and then some plain clean water the rest of the day. But my family had to watch me, slowly lose weight. I started at 175 pounds. I ended the fast at 153 pounds. So I lost a significant amount of weight. I went from about a 36, 38 waist, and I ended up at about 30 waist. So I lost a significant amount of the belly fat that was harboring in my midsection, which was one of my goals, was to have the body start, burning fat, and my fat stored. My stored energy is what actually carried me through this fast.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. And so really explain to them how the first 3 days works, because I think that's where most people get hung up, is they can't get past the first couple hours a lot of times, or the first day.
Well, your body it burns two things for energy: glycogen, which is stored in the liver, and once the glycogen is used over the first 72 hours, after 72 hours, your body goes into ketosis, and your body starts burning fats for energy. So in the first 72 hours, and that was one of the things that made it easier for me, I gave up a lot of those sugars, but still, my body stored a lot of glycogen in the liver. So in the first 72 hours, I was depleting all of those glycogen stores. And that's why towards the end of the 72 hours, first 72 hours, I could feel a little bit of head tightness. I wouldn't call it a headache, but it was a tightness. And after 72 hours, that completely went away 100%. I never felt it again. I was going to do the fast until my body said that it wanted something to eat. My body never said that to me. I probably could have fasted upwards of 40 plus days. But being that I was at home with my family and having other people watch me going through this, they were having more of a difficult time with it than I actually was. Mm-hmm. Because people get concerned about you, and again, it goes against the norm not to eat. Especially when most people in life are eating, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, I did some intermittent fasting, as we had talked about, prior to this, where I did a window between noon and 6. I would only eat between noon and 6, nothing before, nothing after. I also did some 24-hour fast where I was only eating 1 meal a day. And then I got into doing some, 48 and 72-hour fasts, so leading up to this. So I think my body was prepared for it as much as can be. Again, I did this because I have an autoimmune challenge in my life. I kind of relate it for anybody out there that has an autoimmune condition. It's like having a boa constrictor wrapped around you, and it almost seems like no matter what you do, that the restriction just gets more and more and more. So I did this to eliminate, or help to eliminate, some of that restriction in my health so that I could be on a better pathway towards a healthier life. That's essentially why I did this.
Right. And just so people know, like, this wasn't your first option. You've doctors, neurologists, meds, like you've tried other things. This you kind of were left with not many options in terms of where to go from there, though, right?
Exactly. I mean, I have an autoimmune condition that's affecting my central nervous system. And when you have issues with your central nervous system, they cause an abundance of symptoms that stuff like numbness, tingling, weakness, even things like brain fog and things like that. But most of my issues had to do with muscle weakness, and I've essentially went all over the country to try and get a diagnosis for years. I finally got diagnosed with sarcoidosis, which is a disease that causes granulomas. Essentially, it could affect any organ in the body. So for me, I have been seeing a neurologist again. I've been to 15 neurologists, and I'm currently seeing one at Boca Hospital, who happens to be a really, really nice guy, and he really wants me to do well. And at our last appointment, he suggested that I continue to do the things that I'm doing, even though they're outside of his medical realm. They certainly are a different approach than some of the medications that doctors, traditional medicine, wants to put you on, which are things like methotrexate, Remicade, of course, all of the steroids and stuff like that, like prednisone and things like that people are taking. And I can tell you, at one point in my life, I was taking prednisone. I took up to 80 milligrams of prednisone. They call it a miracle drug. I wasn't having any miracles with it. Actually, it made me feel terrible. And they wanted me to stay on 80 milligrams for 6 months to a year. That just wasn't going to happen. My body just could not sustain it. I was telling the doctors at the time, there's no way. I was also on IVIG for a year, once a month infusions, hoping that would help with my immune system. And that didn't help at all either. One of the reasons I got into the fasting, as Aaron knows, is when I was doing some calorie restriction, I felt it was at those times where I actually felt better. Right. Not 100%, because when you have an autoimmune condition, it's very difficult to feel 100%. You really, you never feel like, running a marathon. You're always like behind the 8 ball a little bit. So, but when I would do some calorie restriction, I said, wow, I kind of feel pretty good. And so that's why I thought about doing the extended water fasting.
Yeah. So, with John, ketosis seemed to work pretty well, but then we noticed the times where he wasn't eating or he was doing longer fasts in terms of intermittent fasting, your symptoms would decrease a little bit. So that's where the idea for the fast came to be. And it does seem very extreme to a lot of people, and I just wanted to let people know that this wasn't your first option. You've been at this for a long time.
Yes.
You've tried all the meds, and you would still use the meds if you needed to, but this was just something that we felt it was worth a shot, mainly because fasting does have a long track record of healing people, but also you did feel better the times you weren't eating.
That's true, and I can tell you that if I were away at a retreat with others that were, trying to accomplish the same things on a very, very similar mission as people that go to these retreats, I'm sure I would have fasted for upwards of 40 plus days. There's no doubt about it, because my body never said to me, feed me, I'm hungry, even after 28, and a half days. So I probably would have continued to that point. But I also got to the point where I figured, hey, let's not eat the entire apple at one sitting. Let's take some smaller bites at the apple. And that's what I did. I did 28-hour fast. Now I'm kind of in the refeeding process, which is very interesting. I started out with, some organic bone broth that I made at home, which is a homemade bone broth it's a chicken stock essentially. So I've been drinking a lot of that, some green juices. I got into the plant-based stuff where I made a homemade gazpacho that was delicious. It's 100% organic. I've been doing things like that to kind of, reset my system. I can tell you, I did some um, cleansing, a bowel cleansing with some enemas during the fast, at least every other day, sometimes even every day. But since I've broken the fast, I haven't done any. I'm allowing my system, my body's natural systems is trying to take over. And I've been interesting 2 to 3 bowel movements a day right now.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely moving some stuff. It feels good. I found that it's really important to put fiber back in your diet. Fiber is very important. I also got into, thanks to Aaron, doing some fermentation. I fermented some coconut water with some probiotics. So I let that ferment for like 7-8 days, and I've been taking sips of that stuff on top of the fiber so that my gut my microbiome will be healthy and stuff like that.
I think so. As much as the fasting is about the caloric restriction, I think what most people don't realize that it's a tool to take all the pressure off your system, and really the digestive system is the main area that most of us have destroyed, just because we've had this constant flow of food for our whole lives. And I guess let people know that during the fast, even with no food on board, your body's still releasing waste products through the enema, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It was important just to keep things moving for me. So it definitely, stuff was coming out on a regular basis.
I think that's a hard concept for people to think about, that even, though you weren't eating food, that feces would still be excreted out through the digestive, or something's coming out through
Sure.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt about it. Even though you're not eating, you're still carrying on as normal as you can be. And I was doing some of the things during the fast that would fill up my day. Like I have a sauna at the house. I was going in the sauna. I was sitting out in the sun getting vitamin D. I was doing a lot of relaxation techniques, especially at nighttime instead of watching TV. What I found was it's really important to find a place, even if it be in your home, or a lot of times outdoors felt really good to be outdoors, is where you would just find a peaceful place that you could just reflect on everything you do. And some of the numbers that were interesting to me, most of my life, my fasting glucose was running about 110. They didn't call me a diabetic, they called me pre-diabetic. But my last fasting glucose, I went to the fire station, it was 64. We've been told 80 to 120 is normal. I felt fine at 64, which is a fasting glucose. My heart rate went from 76 down to about 56. That was my resting heart rate during the fast. So even though this is predominantly deals with your digestive system, it's all of the other systems, whether it be your liver, your kidneys, your lymphatic system, you're giving everything a break in the hopes of, when you talk about your digestive system, that's where the majority of your immune system lies. So one of my personal goals, is to try to reset the immune system. And
that's always the main goal of fasting, is to make it to every system in the body, the brain, central nervous system, but the lymphatic system and the immune system is really the holy grail if you could make it there and get results. Tell people a little bit what it's like during the fast, because you mentioned it's hard dealing with friends and family, just in terms of your emotional state, and you said you needed relaxation, but just let people know how the nerves almost become more sensitive during the fasting process.
They do. I could tell that I was getting a little short towards the end of the fast. Actually, the family let me know that my disposition was changing a little bit. I'm trying to get other people to understand, what I'm dealing with, and to have people buy into this healthier lifestyle, which is, difficult when you're raising 3 teenagers. So, I understand that people were very concerned about me. You know, my mother would come over, and you know, she's worried that I'm not eating because listen, we ate. Listen, we were growing up. Every single meal included 2 pounds of pasta at the table. That's not included the meats and everything else that were on the table. So, this was really out of the norm for
Sure.
people to see what was going on.
Sure.
But the thing that makes it difficult is when you're at home and people are concerned about you. It makes it harder on you. Because you're trying to do what's best for yourself, and you know that you feel pretty good, but everybody else is, you know, worried about you, and that weighs on you.
Yeah, it does.
And that weighs on you.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why John and I have discussed maybe doing a retreat, not necessarily a 30-day water fast this summer, but just holding a space for people that would want to come in and try some of these different techniques. I mean, we haven't set anything in stone yet, but I think it would be interesting to bring a group of people in and see.
sure.
I'm
interested, you know, to get into some 7 to 10 day water fasting myself in the future. I mean,
Yeah, tell them how what are your goals? Like from that, like how are you, you know, will it be daily intermittent fasting or what are you gonna do there?
well, what I plan on doing is getting back into some of the intermittent fasting where I either do a 5-2 or maybe even a 4-3 where I'll eat for 4 or 5 days and I'll give my body a break for 2 or 3 days. So a lot of the research I've been reading says if you could get to the 72-hour window, that it puts your body in a better place when it comes to healing.
You'll reap a lot of the benefits of the fast.
Of getting rid of some of the old white blood cells, replenishing your body with new and healthy white blood cells and things like that. So that's what I plan on doing. But I would also like to, you know, as you talked about in some of your posts, you know, maybe some of the seasons during the year, get into some of those seasons, whether it be summer or winter, or with a 7 to 10 day fast where you just give your body a break.
Cool.
Ease your way into it.
So I think just in terms of people who are on the fence, it may not be for fasting, but just starting a new program or eating healthy or in general, what sort of advice or inspiration would you give them? You know, just in terms of making the jump and doing something different.
The biggest advice that I could give anybody is to eliminate processed foods completely from your diet. Number one, all processed foods. Breads, pizza, pasta, things like that. Anything that's processed in a box. Get rid of all of that stuff. Start eating whole foods. That's the best thing that you could do. What seems to work for me is I adopted a ketogenic diet, so I've eliminated sugars as well. So I eliminated fruits, and I'm into more of the fats, avocados, coconut products, things like that. I like that energy because that energy is sustained energy, and there's not all these spikes. So I like that. I can tell you that I did eat about a handful of blueberries the second or third day I broke the fast, and it really made me feel like weird. My brain felt weird, so those are the only sugars I've had, so I haven't had any since. So I'm going to continue with the ketogenic diet, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and we'll continue to monitor. The cool thing about a fast is it's such a reset that now when John goes back in, you can kind of see which foods work for you and which ones don't, and then we'll play with maybe some potatoes or some form of complex carbohydrates and just see how you handle it. But I don't think you need to stay in ketosis forever, but we'll play with it for a little while, and it's just test and retest at this point, and see what happens. So.
Yeah, some of the red lights that came on, I mean, I had a tough time in the beginning with caffeine, and I think I overdid it. My personality is to overdo things. I've been like that my whole life. I don't know why, but I think I overdid some of the caffeine in the beginning. So what I did is I went to about a quarter the amount of coffee ground. I've been using the organic coffee from Whole Foods, but I use a quarter of the amount. You still get the flavor, you still get what you're looking for, but you're not getting that big rush. And I think the same thing would hold true with anything. I think when you ease your way back into the refeeding, the best thing that I could offer is to go slow. go slow. Whatever it is that you decide to ingest, don't overdo it, which I have the tendency to do. Try not to overdo it. And even though you haven't eaten for 28 days, but, I made the gazpacho at home, and yesterday, I mean, you could eat as much as you want of that. That's just not going to hurt you.
Right. You've done well with that.
Yeah.
So, cool. All right, Memo, anything else you want to tell people?
No, good luck to you on your health journey, whatever it is. I have a heart for anybody that's facing any type of chronic illness, because I know what you deal with on a daily basis when you don't feel 100%. So I wish you the best, and whatever you do, stick with it, and healthy journeys ahead.
Cool. Yeah. So John and I will be available in the group Plant-Based Superhumans to answer questions. And so if you have any questions or comments, feel free, and we'll do our best to answer them. So good luck.
All right. Take care.